All right, tell me about the day you died.
Well, let's go. So it's August. I do the Ironman, and then I'm like very active. I'm still racing. So I do the Malibu Triathlon, which was a really big race for me because I ended up placing fourth in my age group. The
Nice.
year before I was like 104th. So like just the improvement in what I want to do. So I was like, you know what, I want to keep racing. So I go to Hawaii. I end up taking all my friends on a trip because I had sold the rest of my business. So I fly 10 of my friends to Hawaii for a week. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to climb Haleakala on my bike. And I did it in 3 hours, which was a really big achievement. It's the fastest road from 0 to 10,000 feet. I was like, I'm going to be in this. I do that on a Sunday. And then I come back to LA on a Monday. And then Tuesday morning, I go to my orthodontist. I was getting my braces tightened. And I sit down in the bed and he turns on the light. And the moment he turns on the light, I just kind of leave my body and I enter the light. I just literally enter this light and I pass out. And what ends up happening, what my experience is I start following, and this isn't a dreamlike state, I start following another version of myself. So I'm walking, I'm the observer, and I'm seeing another version of myself, and I'm following this version down some path. It's grassy, but this other version of myself is a lot happier. It's a lot like brighter. It's just an individual that I was like, man, I wish I could be that person. And I follow and I get to a point, and then I wake up back into my body. But it's very different. I wake up and I'm pale white, and I start throwing up and I'm very hot. Like I'm like almost like I'm sweating while sitting in the seat. And I look, and the guy that was helping me out was looking at me. He's like, "You okay, man? You like passed out for a few minutes there. Like, you all right?" And I was like, "Nope, I am not okay. Like, I am definitely, there's something wrong with me. Like, I feel like I start gagging more. I'm almost throwing up on the floor in a very nice dentist office. It's a very nice place." And then the doctor comes over and the doctor's like, "Oh, you're fine. You just passed out. This happens all the time. This is normal. People pass out on chairs all the time." And I'm like, "I don't think I'm okay." I was like, "I think there's something wrong." He's like, "Oh, no, no, you're fine." He's like, "I promise you're fine. You can leave now." The doctor allows me to leave in my Tesla. Thank God I had a Tesla. And, and I leave and I drive to Santa Monica and I go to a business meeting, and the people at the meeting are like looking at me. They're like, "There is something very wrong with you. Like, you need to call a neurologist." I was like, "Oh, I've never talked to a neurologist." Like, so I go on Yelp and I Google neurologist. I call a neurologist's office. I tell them what happened. And they're like, "Sir, you need to get to an ER right away." And I'm like, okay. I drive myself to the Santa Monica ER, the UCLA emergency room. I park my car at the front. I don't even think about it. I left the keys in the car. I just go into the front. I'm like, there's something very wrong with me. I don't feel right. There's like something really wrong with me. They put me in right away. They put me into a CAT scan. And like this moment just kind of changed my life. They were like, "Sir, your brain is bleeding. We think you had a hemorrhagic stroke. We believe you have a thing called a cavernoma in your right temporal lobe. There's nothing that we can do here for you. We have to move you to another hospital to stabilize you. We have to move you to another ICU. Who are people we can call right away?" So I'm like sitting there, and this nurse, I mean, she was the nicest human. I mean, she was everything to me in that moment. And she just hugged me and she said, "It's going to be okay." And just thinking, like, being in my shoes at this time, you know, I changed my life. I've been so healthy. I had just climbed Haleakala on my bike. Like that, a lot of people don't, people barely drive up that thing. I did it on my bike. And then this lady's telling me that I have a cavernoma, a benign brain tumor that's bleeding, and they have to go stabilize me in another place. So I get so my dad comes, my brother comes, and they're just looking at me, and they have to move me inside of an ambulance to the other hospital. They have to put an angiogram as soon as I get to the hospital, which is a camera to make sure that it's not an AVN, because an AVN would kill me overnight.
What's an AVN?
It's something that instead of it would be an artery instead of a vein. So what happened with me was it was a series of veins that exploded in my right temporal lobe. It's the photos are gnarly. Like there's this hole in my, like there's this bleed just bled all over. That's what caused the seizure. The experience I had was a hemorrhagic seizure. And Thank God it wasn't an AVN because they would have to have surgery like immediately and cut my brain open. But they're like, listen, we're going to stop the bleeding and we're going to just stabilize you for 3 days in the ICU. So I'm sitting there for 3 days. They had stopped, the bleeding had stopped. They had to wait. What they had to do is, because this had bled so severely, there was a pool of blood sitting in the brain. They have to take this thing out. But because there was so much blood, they couldn't do it that day. They had to wait a few weeks before I could have brain surgery to remove it, because it would have been a stroke risk for me for the rest of my life if they didn't take it out. So I stayed there for 3 days, and then 6 weeks later, I have brain surgery. January 9th, 2020, I went to, this was the start of my COVID. I went to, Cedar Sinai, and I had brain surgery for 7 hours, and they cut my right temporal lobe. I'll show you some photos. It's really nice. Like, doctors sent me some photos of inside of my brain. So if anyone thinks that I don't have a brain, I can always show them that image.
I kind of want to see it.
It's a gnarly photo. And they take out the cavernoma, and now I have a titanium plate holding the right of my skull.
Can we put it up? Do you want people to see it?
I don't mind. I think it's on my Instagram at some point.
What's your Instagram?
It's just my name, my full name. It's on there somewhere. If not, I can send you this image. It's a pretty gnarly.
Daniel,
it's a pretty gnarly. I can send it.
So did they have to do that thing? Did they have to like cut a part of your skull away?
Oh no, it's not just cut the skull. So they cut a circle. They remove the skull cap. They had to retract.
Hold on. Slow down.
Yeah.
When you say the skull cap,
no, not the cap. No. They put a hole here. So it was in the right temporal lobe. It was about 2 inches behind my right eye.
Okay.
What they had to take out. So they do a smaller incision. So I think it's like that big of a hole, and they remove that piece.
Okay.
Then they remove the skull cap. They remove all this stuff. Then they have to cut the brain and retract the brain by 2 inches to get inside of the brain. It wasn't on the outside. It was on the inside. So then they have to retract the brain. Maybe you should just see this photo, because this gives you a good visual of what does it actually look like on the inside. And they take it out from the inside.
Airdrop it to Danny.
Here, this is what it looks like. I mean, you could see the retraction.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah. So
you're gonna airdrop it?
Yeah.
I think we needed this on the big screen.
So
hold on, I've got so many questions. Okay.
It's a gnarly.
Have you got a gnarly scar?
Well, I'm growing my hair out, but when it's short, you can see the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
You can see the whole thing.
How high risk was the operation?
I don't think that high risk because, well, okay, let's put context here. Brain surgery is very high risk when it comes into surgeries. But the good thing was I was extremely healthy. I was, at the peak of physical condition. I was good in a lot of ways spiritually. So there was, I guess, little risk, but who knows when they go into your brain, like they don't know. It's I would say low risk for a high risk surgery, I guess.
Okay.
Like they said, you're going to be fine. We do this all the time, but this is also a brain surgeon telling you that. Like we do this all the time. You're going to be fine.
Damn.
And so it was intense, man.
How long was recovery afterwards?
I think this is part of, my spiritual path of like, I spent basically from the moment of my seizure up until the moment of my surgery, I had a practice. And I was in this weird way practicing how to die, but without actually dying. And I was reading a lot of Ram Dass, and the concept of death became a very close emotion to me. So I have a very interesting relationship with death now because I've experienced it so closely in my life in so many ways.
Have you read you must have read the Tibetan book of Living and Dying.
Not that. I read the Katha in the Upanishads.
So the weird thing about that book, I've 3 times started it. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, man.
Hold on. So
that's inside my skull.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, so you see they have to cut the brain open to get in there. And then they take out the extraction. I don't think I've ever showed this on a podcast.
Do you mind showing it?
No, it's on my Instagram. I put it up there at some point.
Whoa, man.
So it's...
Oh, I've got questions. I've got questions about that.
I don't know that we should keep it on the whole time.
No.
But I think we should. Yeah.
So I've tried to read the book 3 or 4 times, and each time I get about to chapter 3, and I'm like, I think I've got enough from this. But my big takeaway from it is the Tibetans. They spend their entire life is dedicated to be prepared for death.
Of course.
To leave, life with no angst, no enemies, that's the entire preparation of their life. Whereas us morons here tend to do the exact opposite. We're scared of death, and we spend our whole lives maybe avoiding it.
Yeah.
And just in general bellends to each other. And
I mean,
I'm not saying everyone's that, but like a lot of people do.
my practice, even every day in my own practice, is that I want to live a life that the moment that I transition, I've done everything that I could to be my best self, and then also do all the things that I could do in my life to better the world forward. That was a thing that I realized spiritually. But perhaps what was happening to me in my life is I was being a little bit. I wasn't pushing myself as much anymore after I sold my business. I think I was like, you know what? I'm chill. I don't have to work again. I have enough money that I don't have to work again.
You weren't pushing yourself. You did an Ironman and climbed a
I
mountain.
know, but maybe professionally I wasn't pushing myself. And maybe that was the thing. Like, hey, you got to get back to work. You have things, you have to, like, you can be selfish in the world and do all these things for yourself, but the world needs you for more things. Go back to work.
Okay, so they had to cut your brain open.
Yeah.
I know nothing about how the brain works, but I know it's a very delicate organ.
Yeah.
Did any of it changes? Like, and did you have any personality changes from this?
I don't know about personality changes, but it was a very rough 6 months.
Okay.
Like I will say that it was the most challenging for me emotionally I've ever had in my life, because TBI generally has a lot of waves that comes with it. Your emotions change. Your chemistry in your brain is also changing, because imagine it's missing a piece that is no longer there. It's had a pretty traumatic event that being split open. The neurons are reconnecting. So I had very depressive bouts. I had suicidal thoughts. I had all the things that you would think about as a part of it, but definitely came out ahead in the end.
Yeah.
But I think that's my perseverance in my soul, was like, you know, if I'm not dead yet, there's no reason to stop. And that's kind of what encouraged me to get back to, I guess, work, and get back to like kind of building the thing that I'm spending all my life force energy on now is to where I am. And I think that was a big catalyst. But I think the spiritual element is really important. Remember I told you that I was following another version of myself?
Yeah.
I fundamentally believe that I switched places with that being when I came back into my body.
Okay.
So I think I woke up being a much happier version of myself. Whatever that was, whatever that experience was in the light, whatever you want to call it, I think I switched places, and that's the being that I am here, because I feel a lot more grateful for my life now than I did before, because it really centered me of knowing, like, at any moment I can disappear, at any moment I can die, at any moment I can get hit. I just don't know, because I was in the peak physical shape of my life, and I get hit with that. Like, anything is possible at this point. Anything is possible.